Week 1 in the NFL wraps up tonight, but we had some standout performances on Sunday. Notably, Tua Tagovailoa balling out, 456 yards, 3 touchdowns as the Dolphins won a shootout in L.A. against the Chargers. What about Jordan Love and Aaron Jones? That looks like a nice combo. Jones had 127 total and 2 touchdowns. They opened with a win in Chicago, but not so good from the highest paid player in the league. Joe Burrow threw for just 82 yards, and the Browns caged the Bengals 24-3. Here are the top fantasy performers at each of the positions so far. As mentioned, we still have one game tonight. We talked about Tua. Hey, what about Tyreek Hill? He was electric. The Cheetah, 215 and a pair of scores for him. And even though the Patriots lost to the Eagles, Hunter Henry, impressive. 5 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown from him. Let's talk fantasy with our guys, Jamey Eisenberg and Heath Cummings. We're going winners, losers, some waiver wire help, which a few of us need on this particular Monday, and some DFS plays from FanDuel for tonight. Let's start with your winners. Jamey, take us through who you got.
Well, Tua is obviously a big winner. I was glad the start of the week got off to a great start, so thanks for leading the segment with that one there, Jeremy. But I'm going to go with another guy here that we were a little concerned about, and that's Anthony Richardson. You know, we weren't sure how he would do in his first NFL game, how he would do against a pretty good Jaguars defense, and clearly had some flaws. The interception at the end of the game was not exactly the most encouraging, and you didn't like to see him leave the game, although Shane Steichen said he's going to be fine. But we did see, we're going to see an improved passer from the preseason, certainly from what he looked like in college, and the running will come. 40 yards and a touchdown. I think there'll be better rushing days ahead. So Anthony Richardson should be locked in lineups. It's going to be interesting to see how he does against a good Texan defense. But I'm going to stay in that same game with the running back and the receiver, Travis Etienne, with the big breakaway run at the end. I know not the best thing to see him lose a goal line opportunity to Tank Bigsby, but if Etienne's going to be a part of this explosive offense, you're going to be thrilled about that. And then welcome back Calvin Ridley. What a day he had against that Colts defense. I think it's going to be a fun season for him. He certainly has top 5 upside based on what we saw in the preseason carrying over to week 1, and Trevor Lawrence is locked in on him. Unfortunately, Christian Kirk, a disappearing act, but maybe that'll be corrected in week 2 against the Chiefs. And then Hayden Hurst, you mentioned Hunter Henry as a tight end that did well this week. Any tight end with a pulse at this point is very, very welcoming. And Hayden Hurst could be the best receiving option for the Carolina Panthers at this point. So got to give him the nod as a winner.
Yeah, and just working off of Etienne and Ridley, I'll say Trevor Lawrence, the big winner to have. Calvin Ridley, that #1 wide receiver. Obviously, Kenny Gainwell taking over the RB1 role in Philly. Luke Musgrave, even the downfield target for him. I liked his activity. But the big winner for me, Zay Flowers, a 46% target share in his first game in the NFL. Catches 9 of 10 targets. Looks like the clear #1 wide receiver for Lamar Jackson. Now, sure, Mark Andrews is going to come back and probably be the #1 pass catcher in this offense. But there's room for a #1 wide receiver to be a fantasy starter next to him. We saw that with Marquise Brown. There's probably more room now with the improved offense. I could see Flowers being the best rookie wide receiver and maybe even a top 20 PPR wide receiver this season.
Well, so your winners from this week, according to Jamey and Heath, certainly in terms of the losers, I mean, I was a guy of DeAndre Swift. I love to see Kenneth Gainwell become a winner, but I was hoping to see some DeAndre Swift. In terms of losers, though, from this week, Jamey, who do you have?
Well, you mentioned, I don't know if you call the highest paid player in the NFL a loser based on the contract he just signed, but certainly his performance is worthy of putting him on this list. Joe Burrow was a disappearing act. And, you know, we go back to last year and he was coming off the appendix. He had a bad week 1 as well and got off to a slow start. I hope that's not going to be the case. I hope he comes out in week 2. Tough matchup against Baltimore, but looks more like the Joe Burrow that we were expecting to see. So just bad all across the board. T. Higgins, no catches on 8 targets. Jamar Chase was disappointing, but Joe Burrow certainly left a lot of fantasy managers very, very upset. Najee Harris and really the entire Steelers offense was miserable, and so you got the split, which is what we were hoping to avoid with Jaylen Warren, and we'll see how that goes again moving forward. Tough matchup again in week 2 against the Browns, so it's hard to love really any of the Steelers. Certainly hard to love Najee Harris. Wow, was it disappointing to see what happened to Drake London and Kyle Pitts, but London just again another guy with that disappearing act in that win against the Panthers. We hope to see a little bit more attention for him, more targets, more opportunities, and certainly more production. So Drake London, hard guy to start. And then we knew there was going to be a math problem in San Francisco, and so Brock Purdy looked great. Brandon Ayuk looked great. Christian McCaffrey looked great. Deebo Samuel and George Kittle not so much. So when you're talking about 2 guys probably stepping up on a week-to-week basis and 2 guys probably disappointing, get ready for that in San Francisco. And so far, George Kittle is clearly still dealing with some sort of injury that was bothering him in the preseason.
There were a lot of bad quarterbacks in week 1, but I'll agree with Joe Burrow. There were none worse than him. Cam Akers, like you see that he had 22 carries and think, well, at least he's getting a bunch of work. A lot of those came after this game was decided. He was being dominated even in touches early in the game. Terrified of him. You can bench Dalton Schultz. You can cut Dalton Schultz. And you might have to bench DJ Moore. Just absolutely no priority for him in this past game. Justin Fields looked awful, and the Bears' offensive line looked worse.
Yeah, there was so much talk about Justin Fields coming into this season and that our expectations were certainly higher.